everyone. Um, yeah, so how's everyone? How's everyone doing? Um, let's do let's do a quick warm-up activity. Let me show you. Let's see, where is that activity at? We usually do this as a exit um, activity, I mean like the end of class, but I think this is a special occasion. Um, let's do this. All right, so instead of just saying good or bad, I have a list of just various words for you guys to look at, adjectives to describe your mood and your how you feel and stuff like that. I'll give you like a minute, the list of words, and then tell me, what do you feel right now? What's your emotion? And then use the chat box to let me know. So once again, I'll use the chat box to let me know, and I'm going to use that as attendance later, so it'll be easier. Let me know. I'll give you guys a minute to respond. Another 40 seconds, and some people just came in right now. Using the chat box, tell me how you feel, and I'm gonna use that as attendance later, so it's easier to keep track of everyone. No, 30 seconds. All right, I'm gonna give you guys extra 15 seconds for us to figure this out. Oh, my computer is freezing. Oh, there you go. Yeah, I'm gonna give you guys an extra 15 seconds to figure it out now. All right, hold up. Some people just are arriving right now. Let them in. Oh, there's a few people arriving right now. Okay. All right, cool. Let's look at this. So we have different ones. Let's look at the very top. We have tired, stress, anxious, frustrated, nervous, stress, a lot of stress, isolated, pessimistic, meh. Isn't that like the total like sum of how you feel though? Like meh, cautious, disappointed, stress. I feel big brain, currently confused and a bit Worried, deprived of sleep, stressed and depressed, stressed, stressed, worried, and stressed as well, nervous, confused and regretful, stressed, confused and content, desolate, bewildered, fearful, nervous, stressed, a lot of stress, tired, anxious, cautious. Interesting. Okay. I see a lot of different things. So let's go with I'm with Denise. Can you explain that a little bit? You feel confused and a bit worried?
I'm kind of confused and a bit worried how things will turn out. I I sometimes like to take myself away from that from the politics and just be with my big brain fish and feel big brain by myself.
Is that your fish right there? That's your picture?
No, it's not my fish. It's just a random stock picture.
It's a stock picture. Yeah. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Anyone else? Anyone else wanna? How you guys feeling? Anxious. Let me. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I see a lot of people confused, and it is a confusing time period right now. And a lot of people say politics and stuff, and I can't really tell you what the results are now because I don't think anyone knows. Are they big brain though? So yeah, if you're following election like I have like another screen open just to keep track of what's happening. We won't know what's going to happen until tonight and maybe all the way until Friday because um, the the ballots, well, the way we did things this year, it's they're still being counted. It's kind of crazy because when last night at about 1 or 2 a.m., which is about 4 or 5 a.m. in the East Coast, Trump was winning by like a slim margin, right? If you look, if you follow like the way the states are. I stayed up to about 3 a.m. I kept refreshing like a madman, like trying to see updates from Wisconsin and different states, and it was uh, sliver of hope. I woke up at 6 a.m., which is kind of crazy, 3 hours of sleep. And then woke up and Biden had Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan, which in total, between those three states, the lead is like 50,000 people. If you think for a population of 320 million people, but the election will be decided within 100,000 people, which is not even 1%, like 0.1% of the population who could decide the fate of what happens in the next 4 years, it really shows you that one vote does make a difference right across the board. It's kind of a crazy thing right now. But as I told you guys on Monday, be prepared for some craziness because regardless of what happens, there will be contention. There will be people arguing one side or another. If you saw last night at I think 11 or 10, 11 p.m., President Trump, he declared victory for himself with still, I think it was 5 million ballots that have yet to be counted. So a lot of people are like, that's kind of crazy. How can you discount that many ballots that are happening? So it's wild right now.
Mr. Tall, actually, I was like the exact same last night.
Yeah, go ahead.
I went to sleep pretty early because I was really tired. So I went to sleep I think around like 9 or 10, and like I consistent. I even told my little sister I was like, keep me updated even though I was asleep, and I was like, she's not gonna tell me, but I still went to sleep. I woke up like at 2 a.m. and I kept like refreshing the page to see what was happening, and I went back to sleep. I woke up in the morning and I checked again, and I mean, I feel like I was really like not stressed but like nervous like to see even what was gonna happen, like even opening my phone I was like, "Ah, what if this happens?" And I feel like that was like the main reason why I was really stressed, like I was overthinking it a lot. And then I opened one of my social media platforms, and then everyone was posting about like how like 30K ballots were like lost, and I was like, oh wow. I was like, that even got me like so much more anxious. I was like, what if this happens? I was like, like I was just stressed. I was like worried, so worried.
Yeah, yeah. there is some controversy with that. So, if you follow the politics of that, some states decided that they let the courts decide, right? Some states say as long as the ballots were sent to the mail and they reached the mail and the election places by a certain time period, it's all good. Some states a little more strict. Florida was actually very strict. They said if the mail-in ballots do not get to the headquarters by 7 p.m. yesterday, then they wouldn't count it, right? Regardless if you sent it in last week or 2 weeks ago in Florida. What they discovered was there were 300,000 missing ballots in Florida by the postal office. They didn't know where it was. There's a lot of like scandal because the person that is in charge of the postal office was recently appointed by Donald Trump months ago. So it's been a crazy like there could be scandals. That's what I'm trying to say. But yeah, definitely. I'm glad you brought that, like the missing ballots. There are missing ballots. Yeah, but regardless, it's gonna be interesting. There's nothing we can really do. We just wait and see. But I'm not sure if you guys saw, they boarded up lots of areas of downtown and stuff like that. So, and people are expecting, if it comes down to the wire, regardless of who wins, there might be some action happening. Because I don't think either side believes the other side was playing fair, right? Okay, enough of that for right now. Well, I'll keep you guys updated if I see anything. Let's look at our agenda for today. We're going to look at, I'm going to show you a PowerPoint about Between the World and Me, which is the novel we've been reading. And as I go through the PowerPoint, what I want you guys to do is to open up that notebook, the digital notebook, and I'll walk you through how I want it to be set up. In that digital notebook we did notes on rhetoric to test it out, but we're gonna do notes on Between the World and Me on that. So have that opened in a bit. And then before we do that, we're going to do annotation. We're going to read a poem. We're actually just going to read Langston Hughes' poem. It'll take us about 20 minutes probably. And we have some activity. We're going to look at part one. But yeah, let's dive right in. All right. So what I want you to do, you should be able to see my screen, is go to Unit 2. And go to, where did I put it? Was it week 11? No, it was not week 11. When did I tell you guys originally to do it? I know we've been postponing this assignment for a while. Where did it go? 12? Oh yeah, okay, go to week 12. And then click on this assignment here, annotation Langston Hughes. And then same thing we do with the other ones, click on it and it will make a copy of it for you. All right, I'll make my own copy just because I don't want to ruin the original version of it. All right, so you should have someone's sending a message. It says the file hasn't been shared. Interesting. Let me look.
It's there now.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I just have to refresh.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So check it out. We're going to read this poem together, right? So as we read through it, I'm going to annotate. And essentially, I kind of just want you guys to follow along and as we annotate and walk through and see the poem. And then as you annotate, I'm going to ask you questions and in annotations and that you should be able to answer. Before we're going to read two poems, but just for the sake of time, I just want to read one. Okay, so before we get started, let's look at two things. Highlights, lengths and hues with your cursor, with your mouse, like this, and then hit comment, right? Then we're gonna write a little bit about lengths and hues. Hughes is an African American poet from the 1920s.
Oh, is there any way you can make it a little bit bigger? Because I have like two screens and it looks really small.
Yeah, I totally get you. I don't know how to make the comments section bigger.
I think you can like. I think that looks better.
A little better?
Yeah.
Let me, okay, I have some ideas. How's that?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So Langston Hughes is an African American poet from the 1920s. If you're from New York, specifically Harlem, New York, actually. Not sure if you guys learned this before. Do you know the literary period he is from? Have you guys heard of his period?
The Roaring Twenties?
Similar, actually. Yeah. The Roaring Twenties actually describes the time period, like the flappers and people wearing certain things. If you guys ever saw Great Gatsby, the Roaring Twenties is that time period. That's what they call it. But the literary period, meaning like the movements that was happening, especially for African Americans, was called the Harlem Renaissance. The Harlem Renaissance. Or is also called the Jazz Age, right? So basically, the small section of New York, you had these major African American writers, musicians, and poets. Like they're doing their thing because they had this small community to themselves, and that's why you see the rise of jazz music, right? And you see the rise of foundational poets like Langston Hughes. All right, so that's the first thing we have. Langston Hughes is an African American poet from the 1920s from Harlem, New York. Harlem Renaissance is like the literary period he's from. Yeah, so someone said the Roaring Twenties way to cover that. Yeah, I mean, essentially they call it the Roaring Twenties because it was kind of a crazy time period. Next semester we're going to actually read The Great Gatsby, which I'm a big fan of, and we'll learn about the Roaring Twenties and like the time period of how they covered up their depression with party and alcohol. So it's kind of similar to now. I know it was 100 years ago. Let's look at this. Let America be America again. And I'm going to pose a question for you guys that you guys should answer. What do you think? All right, knowing what you know. So now I want you to just answer that question in like a sentence or two inside inside the comments. So write the question down and then answer that question. I'll give you a minute. Just gauging the title and knowing the author. We know who he's African American poet from the 1920s. What do you think the poem will be about based off the title? All right. So, just general thoughts. What do you guys think? What do you think the poem is about? Let America be America again. What are our thoughts? His life, maybe?
I think it'll be about how like how America was built off like the ideas that everyone is free and equal, but that was never actually true. So maybe the poem is about how we should bring that like not back, but we should make it more become true.
Okay, interesting. So you're saying it's about like how there's this America might have been built on ideals and we want them to come true again. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at this. Let's see what this is about. Uh, I'm gonna start us off. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer of the plain, seeking a house where he himself is free. And we have in parentheses. And America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man may be crushed by one above. It was never America to me. Oh, let my hand be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free and equality is the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark, and who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in the ancient's endless chains of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, a work of the men, of take the pay and owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, the bondman to the soil. I'm the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry yet today, despite the dream. Beaten yet today are our pioneers. I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamt our basic dreams in the old world while still a serf king of kings, who dreamed the dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet his mighty daring sings in every brick and stone and every furrow tune that's made America the land it has become. Oh, the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be home, my home, for I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plains and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay and for all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung and all the hopes we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except a dream that almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet, and yet must be the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow is in the rain, must bring back the mighty dream again. Sure, call me an ugly name you choose, a steel freedom does not stain from those who live like leeches on the people's lives. We must take back our land again. America, oh yes, I say it plain. America was never America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and wrath, the graft, the strength and lies, we the people must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and endless plains, all the stretch of the great green states, and make America again. All right, a lot is happening there. A lot is happening. So I just want to read it once entirely, but let's go back to the beginning. Uh, let's look at this. So how many voices do you hear? Is it one person, two people, few people? What's happening here?
It's more than one. You can say that because they're talking off of different perspectives.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely more than one. And we could see that in the beginning, it is someone who is very patriotic in a sense, right? So we hear this beginning statement. So the speaker here is definitely someone who is patriotic or it enjoys the benefits of America. And then we have something happening in these parentheses. And then let's look at this. What is the purpose of parentheses, right? So if you look at this, um, parentheses allow a writer to provide additional information. The parenthetical might be a single word, a fragment, or multiple complete. Whatever the material inside parentheses, it must not be grammatically integral to the surrounding sentence. So what we can learn from that is in parentheses, what it does is add additional information. However, if you ever use parentheses in writing, what you learn is it adds information, but it can also be taken out of writing without affecting the meaning. So instead of having a clear argument, why does Langston Hughes choose to put this part in parentheses? What do you think? We have two sections in parentheses. America was never America to me. It was never America to me. We get that twice. Actually, we get it three times. It says, there's never been equality for me nor freedom in this homeland. So my questions to you guys I'm posing is, who is the speaker in parentheses? And why is it in parentheses? So answer that question. I'll give you a minute to think about that. Actually, 2 minutes. We have, and I'll read it again before we do it, but America never was America to me. Let America be the dream, the dreamer's dream. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme. That any man be crushed by one above. It was never America to me. Oh, let my land be the land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but the opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is the air we breathe. There has never been equality for me nor freedom in this homeland of the free. All right, so I'll give you 2 minutes. Answer this question on your annotation. Who is the speaker in the parentheses and why is it in parentheses? Who is the speaker in parentheses and why is it in parentheses? So another minute, answer that question. I highly, you could highlight either one of the parentheticals, parentheses. You can even choose a color if you want. Let's make it stand out a little more. Okay, so there's parentheses. And so we have three things. There's this initial, we see like a speaker, and we have parentheses. All right, so let's look at that. What do you guys think? Anyone can answer, but who is the speaker in parentheses, and what do you think? Why is that? Why is it in parentheses? Why does Hughes craft it like that? What's the purpose of that?
I could go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I said that the speaker in parentheses is someone who wasn't capable of receiving the benefits America has to offer others. And I put that it's in parentheses because it's controversial to the line stated before it. So the writer wants to make that visibly clear to the reader.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Does anyone have like a different perspective of why it might be hidden? So definitely, it could be that, but it also be grammatically. It could show that it relates to Yeretsi told me something earlier that sometimes history is whitewashed, right? So things in parentheses, and if you look at the definitions of parentheses and the way it's used in writing, it's used to add information, right? It's used to add extra information, and it can actually be removed without changing the meaning of the paragraph, right? If you look at the way people use it in writing. And I think it could be a comment on how people of color, people who are oppressed, people who definitely people are oppressed, they can be removed from the history books and people wouldn't notice, right? And so you can see this is more as like a whisper. They're more as the people in the background. So we have this idea, right? We have these two opposing ideas. And we know this first speaker, right? Is a person that's enjoying the benefits in America. They're talking and they're enjoying and they say stuff like life is free and equality. And then we got the retort right here, right? There has never been equality for me. There's never been freedom for me, right? So, and we clearly know that that person's in the background because then we have this conversation. Let's call them the speaker in power. Ask the voice to speak up. Right. So from here on, we're going to hear the voice of the speakers, right? And so, you know what we're going to call? We're just going to call them the voice of like the oppressed, the voice of the hidden, the voice of the oppressed. That works for me. So we have the first two stanzas. They are committed to talking about like those natural things you hear, like very empowered, elite, I guess whites say about America, like it's a land of free, it's a place where people can use their liberty and you should be successful and stuff like that, right? And you can always hear these things in the background, and like one major thing about it, you could even argue like, look, you had the Constitution of the United States written in 1770, no, Declaration of Independence written in 1776, declaring your freedom from England, while at the same time, slavery exists for another 80 years. And the 13 colonies, which expands in their westward movement, removes millions and millions of Native Americans, right? So it is this contradiction that we're looking at. All right, so let's look at this. I am the poor white fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek. All right, so first we talk about the first group of people that this person is representing. They are representing the people of the oppressed, right? The people that have been oppressed in society. You have the poor, fooled white folk. And you can actually see that in politics today. Southern uneducated whites usually are tricked into voting for policies that go against their benefit because they follow party lines. But going through here, you see, I am the Negro bearing slavery scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, mighty crush the weak. So these are all the people that are being crushed by American ideals right now. Doesn't sound too far off from what's happening today. And then here's the next group of people. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in the ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain of the grab the land, grab the gold, grab the ways of satisfy need, of the work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. What do you think this represents? Who is this might be? I'm the young man full of hope, tangled into the endless chain. Yeah, someone says a white person. So this could be young people, possibly white. White that are tricked into following and believing that greed is good, right? So it's not like it's not like all people that aren't like the oppressed, right? That aren't from are black or red, Native American or immigrants are born inherently evil. He's saying that there are people that are born into society and they're taught that greed is good. That they're taught that the only way to be successful is if you grab power, grab land, grab gold, make people work for you, own everything for one's own greed. So these are ideals that are taught, right? That's what he's trying to say. Next group of people. I am the farmer, the bondsman to the soil. I am the worker sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, the humble, the hungry, the mean, hungry yet today despite the dream, beaten yet today, O pioneer. I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker bartered through the years. Yeah, someone said working class. Yeah. So it's anyone from the bottom, right? So farmers, bondsmen, people who work in factories, the people that are, aren't rich. You could be a poor white and working your butts off, right? That's what he's saying. The poorest worker bartered through the years, people that are traded from factory to factory. So this is the working class. People speaking up. So far, I mean, while you're reading everything else, you have America's a great place, except if you are poor whites, black, Native American immigrants, a young person trying to find success. If you're a farmer, you're working class. So far, it's a great place if you're not part of those people, right? Next. Yet I am the one who dreamt two basic dreams in this old world while still a serfs of kings, who dreamed the dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone and furrow turn that made America the land it's become. Oh, the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home, for I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shores and Poland's plains and England's grassy lea, and torn from Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. It's say in this section, it's saying that it is ironic because immigrants are the ones that carry the American and maybe carry the American dream. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this too, which says dreams are basic dream. And we've talked about this many times. I wonder if I comment it again. Yeah, add a second comment. The American dream. You might have heard this many times, and this is something we're going to study constantly during this year. And the American dream is the idea. Let's find the American dream. Is a belief that anyone, regardless of where they were born or what class they were born into, can attain their own version of success in society, right? So that's not, I found a definition from online, and that's fine. Let's add it to ours. All right, so the American dream is the belief that anyone, regardless of where they were born or what class they were born into, can attain their own version of success in a society where upward mobility is possible. So it's saying, regardless of where you're born, so if you look at it, we're actually going to talk about this extensively when we go into Between the World and Me, because Ta-Nehisi Coates hates American dream. And we're going to have a debate about this later on, whether you think it's real and what if it's a fantasy for people. Is it a real thing? And it really depends on your experiences in the land. If you have found success or if you've been stuck in a cycle of oppression. But we have two things. So I highlighted the dream, and so I defined the American dream. And so this next group of people that is speaking up against the people in power it's the immigrants who came from, it's the people that came from, even if they came from England or Ireland or historically white places, they were people that left their countries as immigrants, right? Nike Hughes is pointing out a fact that everyone is an immigrant. Every person in this country, minus Native Americans, are immigrants, minus African Americans because they didn't knowingly choose to come to the United States. But he is pointing out the sheer fact. Yeah, some were forced. Yeah, definitely. But what he's pointing out the fact that it is funny that even in the 1920s, we see a isolationism, xenophobic ideas where they were starting to go against immigrants, because at that time period, you have influx of Italians and Polish, and then the English and Irish whites are like, oh, those aren't white people, those aren't part of us, those are like the dirty Europeans, right? And he's trying to point out the fact, like, no, look, our ideals came from immigrants, and you guys were all immigrants at one point, from 1492 to 1776, we had an influx of immigrants from England. We had immigrants from Ireland and Scotland and stuff like that. All right, the free, it's kind of funny, the free, question mark. Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today. Let's comment on this. The millions on relief today, the millions who shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, who all the songs we've sung, who all the hopes we've held, who all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. So people of the oppressed have nothing to show for all of their right? He's saying, look, we worked hard, we've hung your American flags, we try to strike, but you shot us down. We try to ask for relief. We try to sing. We try to have hope, but our dream is almost dead. This idea of your American dream, the thing that you said, we can come here and work, it's almost dead because there's no hope, right? And so now we go back to the title. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been yet. This is a funny idea, right? Let me cancel this real fast. And yet, it must be the land where every man is free, that land that's mine, the poor man's Indians, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hands at the foundry, whose plow, the rain must bring back the mighty dream again. This is a funny part of it. Let America be America again, the land that it never was. Essentially what Hughes, or the speaker is saying that America was never what it said it was in terms of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence. I think the craziest thing to see is that this is written in the 1920s, right? He says, oh, let America be American again, the land that never has been yet. So whatever this idea of America is, it's never been that, at least for Langston Hughes time period, all the way up to the 1920s. And at that time period, America has been around for 150 years. Which is, it kind of makes it funny when you see the slogan, make America great again. So depending on where you're from in society, what does that mean? At what point do you want to get America back to, right? Because according to Langston Hughes in the 1920s, it was never great. So he's saying, so he's saying, look, it was never great for whose sweat and blood, people who gave their sweat and blood, people who worked the foundry. Foundry means like the factories, the people that worked like the steel mills, people who plow in the rain. So for all these people, it was never good. Sure, call me an ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh, yes, I say it plain. America never was American to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be. So he, actually, I don't want to say he because it's, I don't want to gender it, but the speaker is, so actually, yeah, that's a good lesson to learn. Regardless of if the poet is a woman or a man, we call the narrator in a poem the speaker because they take on a different persona. So for example, in this particular poem, it's not like one person. We see that the speaker is this combination of different people in society that have been oppressed, from Native Americans, from immigrants, to African Americans, to poor whites and stuff like that, in the working class. So the speaker in this poem is a mixture of all the things. It's not really gendered or a single person. America was never America to me, and yet I swear this oath, America will be, right? So the speaker is hoping to rebuild America. And we get that idea again. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, which is kind of cool, the rape and rot of graft and stuff and lies, we the people, and he takes this. This is an allusion. Allusion is when we make a reference to something. This is an allusion to the Declaration of Independence. And he uses this language particularly on purpose. If you look at the Declaration of Independence, Uh, it's it's a oh, sorry about that. The preamble. All right, well, can't find it right now. But we use that, it's an allusion to the historical American document, right? We the people to form a more perfect union, yada, yada, right? So he uses that, or not he, the speaker uses that to get you to see, think about the idea of remaking the country. The lands, the mines, the plants, the rivers, mountains, and the endless plains, all the stretch of this great state, and make America again. Make America again. The speaker. Yeah, okay, cool. The Constitution. There you go. So, sorry, let's correct that. That's why I teach English. Allusion to the Constitution. Thank you, Lena. The speaker wants people to remake America. To include all of the oppressed. So if we get back to like the title, which was "Let America Be America Again," we see that it's an ironic statement. The speaker doesn't actually believe that. What they do believe is, um, what they do believe is that there are some ideas, but the way things are developed right now, and the way things are constructed, all those people we listed before, from the Native Americans to blacks to workers to whatever, all those people are oppressed. And what they need to do is make America again, which is kind of crazy. Like, once again, I want to read this poem about like today, comparing the 1920s to 2020, where we have a slogan that says "Make America Great Again." And we have this slogan, "Make America Again," where it's a twist on it. We're trying to make it new, a new place. All right, so hope you were able to annotate that. You're going to submit this later. What you need to do is answer this question. What do these poems say about, so it should just be one poem. I had a second poem, but we wouldn't have enough time to do that and look at what I want to do after. What does this say about the speaker's experiences in the United States? How can this relate to today? I'm going to give you 5 minutes to type this. If you don't finish it, you can do it later. I just wanted you, when it's fresh in your mind, still have time to reflect on it. Actually, I'll give you 7 minutes. So you're going to type the bottom, and if you're done, you can submit it. Yeah, if you guys still have the second poem, just delete it. We don't have time for that. It's a cool poem, but it's just, it's too much. It's too much right now. Yeah, some of you guys might have the second poem still, some of you guys don't, but you can delete it. So I'm going to give you 7 minutes to get this bottom portion done, and you're just going to type it below here. And when you're done, you could submit it. And if you're not done, you can submit it later this week. And while you're doing that, I'm going to set up the next thing. Oh, I shouldn't say 24 hours. How do I fix that? All right, cool. While you do that, I'm going to set up our next thing. So let me look. So, hope you guys like Mac Miller. Mac Miller is underrated. But let's go with this. So what I wanted you guys to do was, and I saw some of you guys did it earlier, you opened up your old notebook. So your AP language notebook. The only thing that was on there, I think, was we did rhetoric notes. If we were at like normal class, we would actually use it pretty often. We would take notes maybe once or twice a week. But just because of the formatting, I decided that there's other things that are more important, but for the sake of learning the novel, I wanted to take notes on this. So what you should have is open up your AP notebook, and you should have 2 pages on there already. That's based on rhetoric notes, where we studied ethos, logos, pathos, and you're going to go to the table content section. So if I can't write my note because I turned in, and the last check is only lets me add comments. Really?
Yeah, that's for everyone, for me as well.
Okay, let me see if I could fix that. Always a confusing thing. Okay. All right, give me a few seconds or a minute. Okay, submissions. Can I unsubmit everyone's? All right, this will take a minute to do. That's kind of lame, but all right, so I have to manually look at this later then. Someone asked me if you guys did your notes on paper. You could continue on paper, but what you're gonna do is take a picture of your notes and then add that picture to your digital notebook. So eventually, you're gonna all have digital notebook, but you can also keep a simultaneous physical notebook. So someone asked if I can add a notebook. If you have it once you download it once, you don't need to ever download it again. So everyone that's submitted it before, all you got to do is open it again, hit refresh, and you should see it. So I guess we have to work with that. Don't submit it now, just have to manually look at it and grade it. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go to week 6. This is in unit 1, week 6. And you could open up the assignments and you get to download the notebook. But Yamlex, have you had opportunity to look at your notebook again? Does it work?
Yeah, I checked already. It lets me now.
Cool, awesome. All right, so let me show you guys some stuff. In unit 2, and we are in week 12. So if you look at it, oh no, where did I put that link? I put in week 11. Yeah, okay, sorry about that. Go to week 11, and there's a link to Between the World and Me, part 1. So if you need access to this PowerPoint, you can click on it, and it'll lead you to this PowerPoint. Yeah, if you downloaded it before, it should be on your own Google Slides. Like if, how do I show you guys? Okay. So if I were to go to Google Slides, just with the fact that you guys shared with me at one point in time, I have access to all the ones that I've shared over with me already. So I have access to it. If you go to slides and you search on AP notebook, you should be able to find it. Like if I wanted to click on Yamalex's notebook, we see like the Rolling Stones or Flaming Lips and stuff like that, which is cool. And so what she has right here is rhetorical appeals, logical fallacies, sounds right. So for 15 and 16, what she would add is Between the World and Me, part 1. Yeah, so if you guys go to your own slides, you could find it there. If you at one point in time you've opened it, then you created it for yourself already, and it's going to be in your Google Slides forever. Since I unsubmitted it, I guess I don't submit it again. I'm just gonna have to manually look at it later. Let's see what the chat says. Wait, it's taking a while to load. Okay. All right, so I showed you guys, let me show you the other screen. I showed you guys where to find the stuff at. Should be able to see. Do you guys see the PowerPoint on my screen?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So I have like multiple screens over here now. Okay. So here is our essential question. And if you fall behind, I include a link in the notebook in week 11, I think. And then the way I would set up my notes if we were in class, I have guided note questions. So there are 8 guided note questions. As you are taking notes, these are the 8 things you're trying to answer as you're listening, paying attention. So I like to include this just because some of these things might be future quiz questions, or some of these things might be essential to what we're learning. What does it say? So what's that for? If you are having trouble, keep in mind I do also have recording the session, and yeah, I'm recording the session. So you can always look back, and I included the PowerPoint. So just for the sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead. I know some of you have issues with it. Just as you go through, what I want for you guys to do on your notebook is basically as I talk about these things, answer these 8 questions, right? And you find these 8 questions on the 3rd page of the notebook, in the PowerPoint, and you could find the PowerPoint. If you go to Unit 2 and go to week 11, there is a link that says Between the World and Me, Part 1. All right, let's go through this. We don't have that much time. So if I go over past 10:30, you guys feel free to leave if you feel like you need to go to your next course. But I'm going to keep recording and for you guys to look at it afterwards. All right, reminders. I gave you guys 2 weeks to do these assignments, so these are due next week. Okay, let's do this. Oh, we have until 10:50. Cool. All right.
Well, the advisory starts at 10:50.
Yeah.
I don't think our teachers will really care if we get a little bit late.
It's true, but you know, I don't want you guys to get be punished and tormented with me talking for like the next 30 minutes. Let's go as far, and at 10:30, if you guys feel like you need to go anywhere, I'll have this recorded, but I'm just gonna keep talking. All right, so Between the World and Me, it's written by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I want to get your thoughts on this when we meet next time, because we're gonna have 2 sections done, but I'm gonna go through it. Next week, I promise to cut out the other stuff. We're just gonna focus on only books. EQ, what social injustices does Coates reference throughout the novel, and how do these injustices shape who Coates is? All right, so this is Ta-Nehisi Coates. He's in comic book form. He actually, for a short period of time, was the writer of the graphic novel for Black Panther, which is awesome. He worked for Marvel. He works for a famous magazine called Atlantic. I subscribe to it because I think they do a great job of just having like interesting stories, right? So here's some questions we're gonna go through. So who is he? Coates was born in 1955 in Baltimore, Maryland. And this is something you should see in the first like 20 pages of the book, because he talks about his upbringing. He is an author, he's a journalist, he's a comic book writer. As I mentioned, he He was working for Marvel, writing for Black Panther series, and from what I hear, I'm looking forward to buying some. His Black Panther series is the more interesting stories and more political. He's an educator and most famously writing for the magazine The Atlantic, the one I showed you. His father was an activist working with the Black Panthers. They're an activist group from the 1960s who are characterized, people think there are militants, meaning they're willing to use violence. But if you really look into them, what they did in Oakland, from Oakland, California, is serve the community. They had a lot of programs that serve the community, but they were on watch list because of FBI. However, both his parents were involved with education. After 5 years at Howard University, he left to pursue a career in journalism without graduating. So we'll talk about that later, but here's the gist of who he is, right? So a little bit about him. There's a lot of cool quotes in this book. One of the things he says is, this is your country, this is your world, this is your body, and you must find some way to live within all of it. Here are some general terms. You don't have to write this down, but these are things that he kind of mentions. So social justice is both a process and a goal. The goal of social justice is full and equal participation of all groups in society, and that is mutually shaped to meet their needs. So that's the goal of social justice. A lot of people make fun of it these days on different sides of the aisle, but the goal of it is full and equal participation of all groups. If there are people that are part of a minority group that are disenfranchised, meaning they don't have the ability to vote or to choose their own destiny or to be economically sufficient, then there is social injustices in that neighborhood. I might bring people in future from, what's that group called again? I forgot, but they talked about environmental injustice, right? So that's one of the social injustice happening in people that live in HP. For example, if you notice that freeways and major highways only cross poor areas, right? So HP is surrounded by the 710 freeway, the 60 freeway, and only poorer areas have factories. What you see is that people that live in poor areas are more susceptible to lung cancer, to diseases that relate to bad air quality. And you see that is an injustice because these things only pop up around areas that are poor or minority or low income. That's just one example. But so privilege that we talk about is unearned, often invisible benefits. Racism is oppression against individuals or groups based on their actual or perceived racial identity. And the idea of a microaggression. This is very argued, and we'll read a different book that hates this term, but microaggression means brief verbal, behavioral, or environmental indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, that communicate hostile, derogatory, negative racial slights. So they're like small everyday things that are based in ignorance or it's not intentionally to harm you, but it's slow things that kind of, are trying to attack you, right? So for example, even though I'm not personally offended, there were two Asian teachers on campus, me and one of my friends, Mr. Huyn. Even though there's only two of us, the principal and other teachers would mistake us by calling each other the other person's name. This could be considered a microaggression where even though there's only two Asian teachers on campus, we get confused for each other. Another thing is, like if when I meet people on campus, this was back then, people used to always think I was the math teacher, which I have to correct them. Even like 5 years into teaching, people call me a math teacher. But it's like other things, like imagine if you were out in the street and like if I saw Yamlex's name, right? And someone said, "Hey, do you speak English?" That could be an offensive microaggression, right? So assume that just because you're a person of color, you don't speak English or you don't speak a certain language, or if I don't know, just different things, or even
And that has actually happened to me like many times because
I guarantee it. Tell us about it.
Yeah, like, well, not just by looks, because I've gotten told that if I'm like white, like straight up white, they've told me that before, or if like I've been to many stores, and because my name is Arabic, they ask me if I'm Arabic. So they're like, oh, are you from over here? And I'm like, no, I'm not. So
Yeah. And you might get the reverse of that too, yeah. Like just because you're a lighter skin, people probably think you're like more washed, right? Probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So these are like small things we get against you. It's small attacks against you, who you are based on these generalization or stereotypes. Yeah. If it's like if someone walked up to you and assumed you're the worst of you or something that you can affect. It's not intentional, but these small things every day can cause you to change your behavior. So one way we describe this is if you're African American, and every time you went into a store, people followed you around. Every time you dealt with authority or police officers, they gave you a little more attitude. They gave you aggression. They frisked you, and so these small behaviors can result in future action, right? Small things like that. We can have a conversation about that in the future. So one of the questions I asked you is, what is an epigraph? Right. So an epigraph is a quote or a saying at the beginning of a book or chapter intended to suggest its theme. So you see this a lot in books and in movies where they start off and they just put a quote. And the point of the quote is just to get you thinking, and it always or should relate to the theme. That's the name of what you call it, epigraph. It's just like a quote at the beginning of a book. The epigraph for our novel, Between the World and Me, is, do not speak to me of martyrdom, of men who die to be remembered on some perished day. I don't believe in dying, though. I too shall die, and ballads like castanets will echo me. Confusing. What do you think that means? What that was like the very first page of the book. You might have skipped it because it wasn't part of your required reading, but every time people include stuff like that, there's a purpose to it. What do you think Coates' purpose is in including that? Actually, so let's take steps back. What does it mean to be a martyr? Have you guys heard that word before? A martyr?
Isn't it to like die for like someone's like for your own belief?
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Rihanna. So it's being a martyr is to die for a cause. I'm not sure if you're religious. So the most famous martyr in history, even though I'm not religious itself, is Jesus, right? Jesus Christ is a martyr. He was killed for his beliefs. But so a martyr in sense is a person that is killed or dies because of something they believe in. And let me actually show you a cool example. This is like unrelated, but I'm a big fan of this band called Rage Against the Machines. I'm not sure if you guys heard of it. Cool band from the 90s. Their album cover was this. So in the 1960s, Vietnam was taken over by Catholic and Christians, right? So they made it illegal to be Buddhist in a historically Buddhist country. So this crazy but awesome monk, what he did was something called self-immolation. To prove a point, he protested by burning himself alive to show his resistance to government. He's a martyr for his cause. I wouldn't personally burn myself, but you see this. This is martyrdom. It's death. It's dying for your cause. Someone like MLK, even though he doesn't choose to die, he has become a martyr for a cause where people use their death as a symbol for a symbol. Well, how do I make this a slideshow again? Okay, so martyrdom. So what are we saying? Do not speak to me of martyrdom, of men who died to remember, of some on some perished day. I don't believe in dying, though I too shall die, and castness like cat. Then violence and castness will echo me. All right, so it's still kind of confusing. So what the epigraph means is, even though people who die because of a cause or honorable reason will be remembered, so because of martyrdom, Sanchez does not want to die. Although she accepts that all people die, she just wants to live. And what I mean by that, and what, even though some of the people that have died recently aren't died after this book came out, if you think back to the people we studied in the Tragedy in America project, like George Floyd to Trayvon Martin, all those people in their death have become a symbol for social injustice and police brutality, right? You can't argue that they're a symbol. If you were to choose, if they were to choose, do you think they would rather be a symbol for a cause or be alive? What do you think they would choose? Someone said, be alive, be alive. Yeah. And that's what essentially this quote is saying. He's like, yeah, I could die and I'll be the face of your cause, and you put me on posters and use my name, and like Breonna Taylor, we put her face on somewhere. But what they're trying to argue is, before we get to that point where I have to be a symbol, how I prefer not to die. And this is a comment on all the people from Michael Brown to Trayvon Martin to Tamir Rice to Philando Castillo to even to people that watched the movie, Oscar Grant. We would prefer to live than be a symbol for a cause. I mean, maybe even do more as being alive. And we see this happening, right? We turn these people that died into symbols, and it's good for the cause, but those people would rather be alive. And that speaks to the injustices, right? So very at the onset of this book, Ta-Nehisi Coates is using this as a way to communicate his thoughts, that there is a problem with the system of government. So we've hit 10:30. I'm going to keep going for another 10 minutes. If you guys need to go or do something, you definitely can leave. I'm just going to keep recording and talking. Yeah. All right. So if you guys study history, you might have learned what Jim Crow is, right? You've heard of this. So these were actual laws developed in the South and in a lot of areas as recent as 50 years ago. No, 70 years, what year again? 2020, 60 years ago. Jim Crow laws were laws that were enacted in southern states beginning from 1880s all the way to the civil rights movement from 1960s, that made a segregation, legalized segregation between whites and blacks, or whites and people of color. The name believed to be derived from a popular minstrel character, so we don't worry about that. But if you see the sign over here, it says, "We reserve whites only, no Spanish, no or Mexicans." These were real signs that existed in Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, Georgia. These are places that actually use segregation. And the laws that were named after are called Jim Crow. I guess one of the main arguments that people make is, even though slavery ended in 1850s, 1860s, after Civil War, there was still 70 years of racist laws that were enabling, disabling people from being able to participate in the system, right? So something like going to schools were separated. There were black schools and white schools. Having buses, as you see what happened with Rosa Parks, there's white buses or black buses, or they were even in separate areas on the bus. Restaurants, voting. These were things that were were separated for people of color. So these laws are called Jim Crow, and this is something that Coates mentions many times in his book. Once again, if I'm going too fast, you can always go back and look at the PowerPoint. All right, this is a big concept we're gonna look at later on, redlining. And I always have some people in class. How should I phrase this? I forgot how I used to say it. So how do you define wealth? What's the difference between being rich and being wealthy? Would you say? What's the difference between being rich and wealthy?
Wealth is like having an excessive amount of money, like an extreme amount of money.
Okay, that's possible. Yeah, that's close to it. What else?
Isn't it also where wealth is also like you have power
Kind of.
or
You have,
something like similar to that?
yeah, kind of. So let's look at this one like, I don't know, Ariana Grande, right? Or Travis Scott. Do you think they're rich or they're wealthy?
Rich.
They're rich, yeah. Oh, Yesenia said something really profound. Rich is temporary, wealthy is forever. Not necessarily forever, but it is longer lasting. So when you're rich, like a basketball player, right? Like whatever, you're rich, you have money now. But wealth is something different. Wealth is something you could pass down. There's people that own companies that have like these things to pass down. And that helps sets up your next generation. So like Donald Trump, he came from a wealthy family. When his father died, he was inherited $300 million of equity, of businesses, of property, of things, right? Basketball players might make 10, 15, 20 million, right? Unless you're LeBron James and you're business savvy. But they don't have enough money to pass down that to their children, right? Their kids might get their mansion, but they can't afford the taxes and whatever. For normal people, what do you think is the best thing to pass down to your kids? You guys say gold, like art, what do you think? Knowledge, a necklace, heirlooms, maybe. I see some people, yeah, housing and property. So you guys agree. So being able to pass down a house is a major thing, right? Because land value grows, and I'll tell you how much it grows. My parents bought a home when I was in elementary school, and it cost $100,000, right? That same house, if you were to sell it today, is 500, 600,000, and that's 20 years ago. It was able to grow its value, right? So you can say that people who are renting homes have a disadvantage because you're paying for a property you don't own. So you can't pass down anything to your kids. So if your parents live in an apartment their whole lives, then when they pass away, they have nothing tangible to give you. I mean, obviously you have love and all of this other stuff, but the wealth that you accumulate. So we agree, having houses, having property, having land, having something that has your name on it is important. So what is redlining? Going back to, if we agree that land is important, then we understand that we need property to develop wealth, generational wealth. However, most people in those early days did not have enough money. So even till this day, you need to be able to take out loans from the bank to buy a home. It doesn't matter if you're white or black or whatever, you need to be able to afford a house, and not everyone can pay for it with cash. So they need to take a loan from the bank. What redlining is is banks back then would get a map of the city. And then they would mark up areas they thought were too risky to give out loans to, saying, you know what, if you live in this area, and this area, and this area, we're not going to give you a loan. It's too risky. If you had to guess, what kind of people lived in those areas, these red areas right here? If you were to, someone said people of color. That is, you got that correct. So during a time period where there was mass growth, right? America wasn't always like this. They were building land and people needed to buy homes. We encouraged that. So if they would divide the land, you're literally using a red marker and saying, if you live in these areas, you can buy. And typically people of color would live in these areas, and they purposely did that, and they wouldn't get loans from banks to buy homes. If you're a white, and even though you made the same amount of money as a person of color, you would receive those loans. And if you think about the effect of that over, what, 20 years, 50 years, if you were forced to rent your whole life and you had nothing to pass down, then your kids that started life out at zero. Whereas these people that live in these areas were able to at least pass down property, lands, assets. So that what redlining is. It is the practice of denying services either directly through selective raising prices to residents of certain areas based on the racial or ethnic composition of those areas. Yeah, this has long-term ramifications. You see, some people ask, okay, well, slavery ended in 1850s, 1860s, but Jim Crow ended in 1960s. But redline was happening in the 1960s and 1970s. That means that generation of people didn't have the access to buy homes. So their kids who were born in the 70s and 80s and 90s were born behind the people that were able to buy homes. I think I would have to continue this next time. I don't want to go on too long. We have a lot of interesting stuff to look at. Let me show you your assignments for the week. So you're looking at part 2, and we're going to have a deep dive discussion all on Between the World and Me next week. I know we haven't really talked about it enough, but we will. All right. There's assignments for you to do. It's a lot of stuff, and I look forward to reading your discussion posts, and I look forward to seeing your reactions of how the election turns out. It was great seeing everyone, and I'll see you guys next week.
Bye, mister. Have a great day.
You too.
So I was actually gonna ask, this week we're not having a movie night, right?
No movie night this week.
Okay, sounds good. All right, bye.
See ya.